Right. So, hello and welcome to our introductory call to the nervous system and senses, looking at the physical components, but also the metaphysical. So, kind of beyond what the physical senses can take in and perceive. Yeah, thank you all so much for being here. Really briefly, my name is Jennifer Main. I have been, I realized, kind of working as a healing practitioner for, I think it's been like 15 years now, or just about, maybe a little bit less. But in that realm, that's when I started training, which is weird to me. um, but yes, but I have a background of working as an intuitive, working to help people develop their own intuitive senses, understand their own intuition, and a lot of times what created and shaped their childhood and their perspective of themselves and the world around them. We'll go into a bit more of that because that seems to strike a chord with a lot of people on these calls. Um, Yes. So I've done a lot of healing work, working with the subconscious mind, and helping people to tap into their own inner compass and understand their own intuitive senses over the years as well. Um, and yeah, absolutely loved it. Have found it very interesting. Basically, the way all that started was I was a very intuitive child, didn't understand at all what that meant or what that was, and didn't really have anybody to talk to about that or anybody to help, I don't know, interpret or explain that for me. Um, which makes childhood interesting when you're seeing strange things that aren't really there or kind of able to feel a weird energy in the room or understand that somebody's saying that they're okay but feeling in their body that they're really not okay, and feeling very confused about the fact that people were saying one thing but I knew that there was something else going on within them on a deeper level. Um so yeah, a lot of my healing journey has actually been resolving a lot of that confusion and fear and pain, and yeah, just all the stuff that creates growing up, not really understanding what it is to be intuitive, what it is to be connected with the energetic world, um, and yeah, be able to put words to that or process it or voice it in a way that felt healthy for me. Um, so I would imagine that at least a few of you are on this call for similar reasons, or this resonates on some level. This seems to be common themes that come up over and over again as I talk about these things. Um, yeah, so you're all really welcome to be here again. Any questions come up, feel free to type away. I'm happy to hear from you. And actually, if you want to share in the chat where you're joining from, um, that would be great. It's always very cool to see where everybody is joining from. Um, yeah, and again, any questions that you already have, feel free to type away. Um, yes, so uh, I'm saying to type away in the chat, and now they've changed something, and I can't actually see the chat. Oh, here we go. Forgive me for that. Hey, Allison, Happy New Year. Hello, Darkis. Good day. Video's not working. No problem. No problem. You just be comfortable. Do whatever feels good for you. Hey, April. Happy New Year. Hey, Mags in Aberdeenshire. Other mags as well. Hello. Hey, Tracy. Happy New Year as well. Oh, Jill in New Mexico. Very cool. Mags in Glasgow. April in Ireland. Tracy in Bonnie Bakes of Loch Lomond. I love it. Marianne in Thropton, Northumberland. Anna in Cruden Bay in Aberdeenshire, Scotland. Jackie in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Very cool. Hey, Tamsin in Argyll, and Ava in Edinburgh. Um, oh, and Stuart in Pennycook, and Kirsten in Glasgow. Amazing, amazing. Hey, Lucia in Saffron Walden, and Allison in Glasgow. Cool. So keep typing away. Again, any questions come up, type away in the chat. Yeah, so basically what we're going to talk to tonight is a little bit about the physical components of the nervous system, um, brain, the spinal cord, and our organs connected with our senses in a physical sense. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to go too deep into that because it can get very complicated and that could take up the whole time. So we'll just kind of touch on that. But more importantly, what I want to do is help you understand a bit more about what the physical components of our nervous system represent for us on an emotional and an energetic level. So if you think of the body as being like a feedback system, anything that's going on with us in terms of illness, injury, degeneration, parts of ourselves not working to their full capacity, or or sometimes at all. Um, there's a reason for that, and there's a deeper reason than just my body's wearing down, or I've had an injury, or this aspect of me I've had there's it hasn't worked through the genetic line. There's been problems through my ancestral line. There's always something much deeper than that. And when we can start to understand kind of the language of the physical body in terms of its emotional components and energetic components, then we can start to understand it more deeply. We can start to respond in different ways, and we can actually do something about the issues that we're having. Um, so I always find it really exciting to kind of start to connect the physical body with the deeper inner workings within us. Because what always happens is people have these amazing kind of light bulb moments. They're like, this makes sense now. Or they've kind of had an inkling of, I think these things might be connected, but I'm not really sure how this works or fits in, or how this comes up in this way. So so I would say, keep an open mind as we're kind of talking through these things tonight, and just see what lands, see what you're able to receive or perceive, or see what connections you're able to make. Because actually, all that stuff is totally what the nervous system is about. Um, yes. So in terms of the physical kind of nervous system, this includes our brain and spinal cord, spinal column, and the nerves that run through our body. So we have nerves running through our entire body, the major nerves running kind of from the brain down the spine and throughout. And if you think of all these kind of nerves that run throughout, they're running all the way from within you out to the edges of your skin. And our nervous system is what helps us to communicate. So our nervous system is how we take in information, how we're able to receive and perceive information from the world around us. So even things like, if the wind blows and you can feel that on your skin, you're receiving the information that you can feel on your skin. You may be able to hear the sound of the wind as well. You may be able to see trees or leaves moving. So there's all this information coming through that gives you little bits to say, the wind is blowing now. So you're able to receive that information and respond accordingly. Um, so it's really about the communication, how you're sending and receiving messages through the body. So obviously, if I were to put my hand really close to this candle flame or on the flame, I would feel the heat and the burn from that. And the pain from that, the burning sensation would be, the information saying, this is damaging your skin. You need to move your hand so that you don't do further damage to it, so you don't hurt yourself more. So any sensations we have, especially pain, I think pain is something we all want to hide away from, or we try to dull down with medications or medicines. We try to find ways to work with pain or to separate ourselves from it. There's a reason why the pain is there. It's trying to share something with us. And again, it may be something that's very simple and easy, like touching a hot stove, or, banging your toe on a chair as you're walking by saying, hey, pay attention, be careful. Or it could be that there are some deeper elements going on within you, and your body's really trying to share with you that there's something there that's just not going well. So any sensations that we are feeling that are unpleasant, things that we are perhaps even, we're going to talk about our senses of smell, our senses of sight, our hearing, that all of that has messages for us, not just in terms of the information that comes through, but also in the way we respond to it. So that's what we're really going to dive into tonight. So with this communication, we're obviously receiving information from the world within us and around us. We're also sending information out through our nervous system. We are projecting out kind of belief systems and feelings and thoughts all the time. I know that freaks some people out. They don't like the idea. They're sending out thoughts, that they're sending out ideas or information from themselves that they're often maybe trying to hide away or maybe want to keep it private. But the reality is that's what we're doing all the time. So we are sending and receiving information constantly to the people around us, to the trees, to the other planes, to to whatever is there. So we've got all this exchange of information and communication going on. We are receiving it or trying not to receive it. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, about how some people try to shut down the receiving. And then what then happens with that is then we choose whether to react or to respond to it, or how we're going to react or respond to it. And again, a lot of this stuff is very unconscious. Some of these things just happen naturally, or like a reflex. But it's through that receiving of communication, that receiving of the information, that we are then able to choose our responses to the world. So, it's one of those things you can't really say one system is more important than the other, because we need them all and they all impact on each other. Um, but the more aligned and healthy and in tune our nervous systems are, the easier it is for us to interact with the world around us. The easier it becomes for us to feel more present and centered, and to be able to respond instead of react. And for me, a reaction is kind of the knee jerk, quick, fast. I haven't thought it through. I'm just gonna have this really quick. And sometimes it works out okay. A lot of times it doesn't. It's usually we regret things when we were just reacting, reacting, reacting. But that's what a lot of people are doing, is because their nervous systems are either overwhelmed, they feel overwhelmed, they feel like they're really struggling with all the information. And that's when we get into this point of kind of reacting instead of responding. So hopefully the stuff that we talked through tonight is going to help to demystify some of this, help pick some things apart, and help you recognize, what either you can do differently, or ways you can look at things differently. What I will say is we're going to have a call next week, which is more of a healing call. Like, that's specifically set up to do a lot of healing around the stuff we're talking about tonight. But the reality is that I'm a healer, and we're in a collective group of people that want to evolve and heal. So healing's probably going to happen anyway. I mean, I always set in the intention with these events that they're held in unconditional love, and that whatever healing is ready to happen happens. So again, you can set the intention that you are open to that whatever is ready to resolve, whatever realizations you're ready to have, whatever understanding is ready, that you're able to receive that and have that as well. Yes. Let's see. So Tracy, 30 years of chronic sickness, days that wanted to be well so that I could have a career, make money, do all the things other people do. Realize that I deserve to be well and happy in myself, for me, and nothing to do with proving, achieving, and pleasing anyone is my birthright. Amen. I love that. I love that. And and hopefully some of the things we talk about tonight will help with that as well. So you're in the right place. And hello, Simona in Ireland. Yes. So when we're looking at the relationship between the physical nervous system and the energetic world, we're gonna, again, the main components connected within that are, there's our physical parts, so the nerves that run through us. Our eyes are an extension of our nervous system, allowing sight. Our ears are what allows sound. Our mind and our brain allows an intuitive and a physical knowing of things. Our nose and our sinuses allow a sense of smell, and our skin, and we're looking at kind of the gut solar plexus, is what where we process kind of a feeling of things. So that also then leads us to connecting with emotions and feelings. I can already feel the energy in this. So for some of us, some of our senses may feel a little bit stronger than others. We may feel a little bit more comfortable with others. Some senses may feel a bit more overwhelming or difficult for some people. Everybody's a little bit different with this. So you may find you have really good eyesight, you're a really good visual learner, you have a great imagination, you're able to see lots when you're thinking through things, when you're processing through things. But you may find that your hearing feels a bit dull, or that you kind of shy away from loud noises or things that feel uncomfortable for you. So again, we're going to talk through some of these things. If some of these feel stronger or easier for you, that's fine. Don't feel like everything has to be perfect all the time. We're human beings, we're processing through stuff. This is an opportunity for you to learn and maybe address some of these things, so that the ones that maybe feel more difficult can feel a bit stronger, can feel a little bit easier for you. Oh, Allison, good question. Differentiate emotions and feelings. So a lot of people use them interchangeably, and please correct me, anybody, if they know this better, but my understanding is that our emotions are when we start to put feelings into action or when we start to act upon them. Yes, so if anybody has a better definition, please feel free to type away there. I know sometimes I use them interchangeably and I probably shouldn't, so forgive me if I do that at any point. Um, so yes, so in terms of our nervous system and perception, I'm going to take you through the kind of the main components of how we receive energy, how we take it in. And then we'll talk about how that applies also potentially to feelings and emotions and to our energetic selves as well. Because you can't really separate them out. We try to. Really, they all go together. So the more you can start to see them all as kind of one thing or a connecting story or connecting energy or identity, the easier it is to address it. Yeah, so when we're looking at um, our sense of our senses, let's start with the five clairs. So we have our physical and intuitive sense of sight, physical and intuitive sense of sound and hearing, physical intuitive ability to smell. I don't know if any of you guys knew that you could smell energy. It's totally possible. It's very cool. um, and we also have that capacity to our physical and logical and energetic sense of knowing, and then also kind of the feeling and processing things through our sense of empathy. So what's really the main thing about kind of the nervous system and our senses that I really hope you will, if you kind of get anything about tonight, maybe this is a good one to focus in on and really receive. So the health of our nervous system and the health of our connection with these senses is what will dictate the way we perceive the world and whether we are able to perceive the world through truth or if it's more through our own conditioning and stories and old traumas and pains from the past. So the idea is that if we are carrying a lot of old pain and trauma and suffering, what happens is that when we see others suffering in the world, our trauma gets triggered and it makes us see through a filter that just really emphasizes the pain and the suffering and the difficulty. The cool thing is, I'm going to give a few more examples of this. We're going to work through this. So hopefully this is really good and clear. The cool thing is that as you work through your own suffering and trauma from the past, it's not that you'll never ever see pain and suffering in the world again, because that happens. We know it happens. But what it means is that you will actually be able to see the truth of what is going on instead of projecting your own story onto that story. So what happens is we start to overly identify with other people's stories, with their identities, with what's going on in their lives. And when we do that, we see less of them or we perceive less of them because we're putting our own stuff in the way. So we've got our own filters and lenses that kind of get in the way of truth, of really just being able to perceive the world as it is. So the more you can kind of clean up and heal within the system and these senses, the more likely you are to really be able to understand what is happening around you and within you. The less likely you are to get caught up in other people's ideas, other people's projections, your own stories that maybe aren't the whole truth of what's happening at this current time. Yeah, you're just less likely to be confused and feel lost in all the noise as well. Yeah, so just breathe in that possibility. Yeah. So for those of you that, well, I mean, for me, I know that truth is a big value. Like something I've always done, even from a young age, is kind of I've been a truth seeker forever. And it's always a thing of, well, that's an interesting story, but what's actually at the truth of that? What's at the heart of that? Like what was really happening there? What are all the pieces? What are all the moving parts that were happening in that? Not just this one little bit of the perspective or the story. So for people that really value truth, that really want to understand the world, really want to understand what is happening, um, getting clear with how your nervous system and your senses are functioning is really going to help with that. Because if you can recognize that you tend to shut down in certain situations, or you find that you're getting triggered by certain stories or certain circumstances, or that, so I used to, I realized that I worked in a job where we got a new manager, boss, and um, she would say things like, so we knew that our funding was coming up and there was a potential our team wasn't going to be funded again, so we knew there was a chance we were going to lose our jobs. We were okay with that. We just wanted to know what was going on. And she started a meeting once with the saying, I'm trying to remember exactly what she said. It was along the lines of, I'm going to be as honest with you as I can. And I just felt my ears shut off. I just felt my ears turn off, because it was like, well, I know that what she's about to tell me is probably half bullshit. Or is going to be her version of what she thinks we can handle, or that she's allowed to tell us, whatever that is. So I knew it was going to be a story. I knew it wasn't actually going to be what we needed to hear in order to plan or grow. The reality is I should have sat and listened to it so I could then pick out what the truth was from that. Um, but yeah, I had this real thing about people not being open and honest, and my ears just going, nope, I'm not hearing any of it. So that was an overcorrection for me. That was definitely an overcorrection. And that's what we do. We kind of think, oh, this person's not really being honest. I'm going to shut it down. I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to hear any of it. Whereas actually, if you can stay open to hearing it, then you can recognize the truths that are in it. You can really recognize what is the truth at the heart of it. And you don't get caught up in the stories and the drama of like that. Tracy, I have a huge BS detector. Great. Yeah, yeah. Um, yes. Oh, and Stuart, thank you. This fits in perfectly with that. Interesting about receiving and sending signals. Brought the awareness of the difference between when I'm projecting, when I'm in nature around people, trust in nature, suspicious around people. I would say that emotions are when we allow our pain to hijack our feeling. Yeah, that might be a good definition. But yeah, that is the thing, is that when we feel more at ease. So when we look at kind of the sympathetic and parasympathetic um, aspects of the nervous system, so one of those is when we are relaxed and calm. So our breathing slows down. We are in a really calm state. Our heart rate slows. We're just able to be really present. So all the kind of cortisol and adrenaline and all those stress hormones, they all kind of slow down in production. So our body is actually able to move into a state of kind of rest and healing, and doing all the things that it needs to do. So when we are in that state, our nervous system is calm, our senses are more open. We're actually able to receive a lot of information, and we're actually able to take it in so that we can process it and then respond appropriately. When we are in a stress situation, when we are in that fight or flight, our heart rate increases, our breath shortens, the stress hormones pick up, and because we're ready to either fight or run. So we're in this state where we're trying to assess the danger, and we are looking for danger. So that arouses suspicion. That makes us kind of narrow our gaze and kind of look for what's wrong, what's potentially harmful, what could be a problem here. What do I need to either be assessing so that I can, yeah, again, either react or get out of here. And so many of us are in that fight or flight response too much of the time. And this is so whenever we move into that state, it's like our vision closes in, our senses close in, our auras, our energy fields, it all closes in. So we receive less information, but what we do receive is just a small part of the truth. So the idea is that when we have a really healthy nervous system, when we are able to open up our senses more, then we get more information, we get the bigger picture, we get a higher perspective of what's actually happening. So we're not going on 10% of the information that's there. We're going on, 50, 60, 70, 100% of the information that's there. That's the goal. So, so we can talk about senses in terms of, beauty and texture and the things that are maybe a little more fluffy, airy fairy. This is like necessary for living your life. This is as basic as it gets. This is as like if you really tune into this stuff and understand it, it will change your life. It will change how you respond to the world. It will change the way you listen, the way you see things. You're less likely to get into that fight or flight or reaction phase, and more likely to be able to sit and process and receive things in a much more graceful way. Oh, Max, yes. How do we discern between being hypervigilant and being sensitive? That's a great question. Let's actually talk about that now. I was going to talk about that later, but that's perfect for now. Um, so a lot of the people I work with, and I would also class myself as being a highly sensitive person. So a lot, so the viewpoint for a lot of people is that being highly sensitive is problematic, that it's overwhelming, it's painful, it's difficult, it's too much information at once. They don't know, they feel like they don't know how to cope. They feel like they don't know how to receive. Yeah, it just feels like the world's hard and harsh and ugly and difficult. And just, yeah, that sense of overwhelm is the word that comes through over and over and over again. And I definitely used to be able to resonate with that. And what would happen is, because I was so sensitive and because I could receive so much information at once, I would kind of close off and kind of close in. And I just remember being tired all the time as a child, being exhausted all the time, and just feeling tight and tense all the time, but not understanding why. Um, so this is what happens when people are sensitive, but they haven't learned how to address it and how to work with it. The reality is that being highly sensitive is a superpower. And if you can learn to work with your sensitivity, it can help you be the most aware person in the room. It can help you to really see and perceive and feel the beauty of the world that is around you, not just the stuff that's bad or awful or upsetting, but the colors and the textures and the shapes that other people may not pick up on or may not see. Oh, just breathe in that possibility. um, yeah. So hypervigilance is a trauma response. That's you looking for pain or suffering. That's you looking for something to hurt you. Being sensitive means you're just aware of what is around you. And if it is in a place where you're speaking to someone who maybe isn't trustworthy or who doesn't have the best intentions at heart, or they themselves are traumatized and just don't know how to be a healthy, functioning adult, you can be aware of that and respond accordingly, but without overreacting to it or being in fear or feeling like you either have to fight or run away. So for me, that's the difference between being sensitive and hypervigilant. So if there's any questions about that, let me know. Um, we can go into that, and I'll talk more to this as well as we go on today. Yeah, Tracy, fight or flight hypervigilance until a few years ago. Yeah, yeah. Some of the stuff starts, some of this is ancestral, it's past life memories too. There's loads of reasons why we have this stuff. The reality is it's a learned response. It's a holding of trauma, it's a holding of pain. It's not our natural state. Our natural state is to be relaxed and calm, and it's to be able to receive. So in terms of our energy field with this, um, when we talk about the aura, so everybody has an aura kind of, and that tends to be, people draw it or paint it as like a circle or a bubble around us. Some people hold their auras in much more tightly. Some people's are much more expanded. And that can change. It can move in and out depending on, again, who you're around, the situation that you're in, how you're feeling at the time, if you're more comfortable at the time. But again, the more closed in you are, the more solid you are, the more fixed you are with that, the less you are open to receiving, the less information that you're getting. And again, that is usually a trauma response. It's a fear response from feeling overwhelmed by the world or feeling unsafe in the world. So what happens is as you heal and resolve that, you start to let the armor down. You start to let the barriers down. You have really good boundaries. We're going to talk about that more. You have really good boundaries, but they're not barriers and they're not armor. So what happens is when you have the healthy boundaries with it is your energy field can expand so that you can have a bit more space and spaciousness to move and create and be in flow. There's more space and spaciousness for information to come in, for you to receive it, and for you to respond in a really healthy way with that. Again, our natural state is to be much more expanded than most of us are walking around being. Yeah. Um, so in terms of our the senses in our nervous system, so obviously we are able to, well, we see the world. We're able to see. Not all of us see things in the same way. Some of us see more color, some of us see with more nuance. Some of us are able to see more light and detail with things. Um, and the reality is that, you know, our physical eyes, the way they're structured, is they're only able to take in a certain amount of light. They're only able to perceive a certain amount of color. So we're only seeing a small spectrum of color that there actually is in existence. But that's what our eyes can take in. Um, so it's the same thing with our hearing, with our ability to feel through our skin, and with our kind of physical sense of knowing, is that we are built to operate and vibrate within a certain vibration. So we can receive a certain vibration of sound, color, feeling, understanding, and knowing. So again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's the vibration that we're operating in as human beings. The reality is that our intuition can expand that tenfold or more, because we also know that we can receive information that is intuitive and that is energetic, and that we may not be able to pick up with our physical senses, or may not be able to interpret with our physical senses. So when people talk about walking into a room or talking to somebody and their shoulder starts to hurt, and it's because the other person's shoulder is hurting and they're feeling it in their own bodies, that's intuitive information that's coming through. That's energy that you are picking up on. If you're someone who's able to see people's auras or energy fields, or if you see beings from other planes, or things like that, you are picking up energy that's beyond what is happening in this physical world. You're receiving more of that, so you're tapping into that intuitive field, that psychic field, energetic world, and receiving more information than what your physical eyes can take in. The same thing for, well, even in terms of smell, some people talk about when angels are around, they smell roses. I've been in places where people haven't been around, but I've been able to smell cigarette smoke and things like that. So, our that sense of smell, we're picking up more than what is physically there. So if you can think of your senses as being like a spectrum, and um, a lot of us are really focusing heavily on what is in the reality around us. So the physical, tangible world, which is great. We're humans, we're supposed to. But it's also remembering that those spectrums can expand so that we can not only unconsciously, but consciously receive the information that is beyond that physical spectrum. And the more we allow ourselves to even just play in that possibility that there's more to perceive, there's more to receive, there's more information to work with and play with than what is right in front of us that we can touch and feel, then the more, oh, hello, and the more our life expands. By the way, Zoom started doing this a couple of months ago. Somebody told me I could turn it off, but I never do because it's so funny, and it always fireworks and stuff always happens at the best times. I can't predict it, so I hope y'all enjoy it too. Always happens it's always at the right time. Yeah. So, yeah, so if you can play with that idea that there is more to life than what your human body can perceive, and you can open up your mind and open up your energy field to more information, again, you'll get that much bigger picture. You'll get more details. You'll get a higher perspective of what's actually happened as opposed to, yeah, what's playing out in the reality. Um, yeah, so again, we know that into our reality, what we've grown up experiencing, is based on the human stuff. It's based on our childhood, what we experienced growing up in the family, the culture, the schools that we were in. Um, it's also based on, what's in our DNA, our ancestral memories that we receive through our bodies and that are part of our energy field. This could also be past life experiences or collective consciousness, just the memories throughout the collective of humanity that we are all tapped into because we are all connected to that as well. And so any kind of cultural, religious beliefs, things like that we were a part of, these are the things that create the filters. These are the things that set our belief systems and saying, you're only able to kind of believe these certain things. You're only able to experience these things. It's not okay to experience that. It's not okay to, I don't know, talk to dead people, or it's not okay to, you know, speak to nature, or, whatever those things are. And the more of those belief systems we hang on to, the more our perception is shaped by that. And the less, well, the more we just dampen everything down. We just dampen it all. And that's what we do to ourselves. So again, it really is, the reason I talk about this stuff is to just get you, hopefully, even if it's just planting some seeds for thinking slightly differently about some things. And I love the what if questions. It's kind of like, well, what if I could see more energetically than what I have been seeing? What if I could, feel the energy that's around me, and get some amazing information that's that through that way. So yeah, I find asking that what if question and just seeing what comes through can be really, really useful. Um, and in terms of how our past experiences really alter our own perception and how we react, you know, as humans, we have these really, I don't know, funny's not the word. We we create our own definitions of life, and we create our own stories of what the world is like. And so if we believe that the world's a bad place, that everyone's out to get us, that nobody's trustworthy, um, then that's the story we project out, and that's what we pick up on, and that's what we feel. So a lot of people who are suffering are tapping into that sense of suffering within the world because they're seeking it out in other people. Again, a lot of this is very unconscious. I'm not saying we're consciously trying to do this, especially if it creates suffering, but that's often what happens. Um, and if our experiences in life are that, being in a relationship means that your trust is broken, or that you get abandoned or left behind, or that you're judged harshly, or, yeah, or, if the thing in the past has been that, anybody paying attention to you has made you feel uncomfortable, that you felt really you wanted to hide away, because you were afraid of being, again, judged or abandoned or anything like that. These are the stories we create. Somebody loving us is not abusive or hurtful. Somebody paying attention to us does not mean we get abandoned. These are the stories. So what happens with people who don't want to be seen or paid attention to, if they can feel themselves being seen physically, energetically, again, they naturally start to shrink away and they start to hide away. And then what happens is they stop seeing too. Because if it feels like an invasion for other people to see you, you won't want to invade other people as well. So you'll stop seeing as well. Breathe that in. So this is just kind of one example of how our beliefs around other people or our relationships affect our senses and affect how we utilize them, and whether we allow themselves to expand or we start to close them down. We try to shut them down, shut them off to make things safer, or whatever word you would utilize there, would add in there. Um, so with some of these, what I hear over and over and over again, I have people come to classes and come to sessions and they're like, I want to be more psychic. I want to be more intuitive. I want to receive all this information. And then you start to talk to them about their fears about it. And it's total fear. People are really afraid on some level to be intuitive, to be able to receive information. And again, it's just all based on these old experiences, these old and usually misunderstandings. It's usually a bunch of misunderstood stories that we've just become attached to. We think that it's true, so we make it true. Um, yeah, so in terms of, wanting to be more intuitive and be able to get the bigger picture, it really is about you questioning and picking apart some of those old fears and perceptions, because we are human beings. We've come here to have a human experience, but we are energetic beings. We are energy. So of course we are meant to read energy. Of course we're meant to feel energetically and hear and see and know energetically what's happening. We are meant to use our intuition in order to understand the world within us and around us. That's it. Like there's no debate with there's no argument with that. People try to make up all these reasons about why you shouldn't or couldn't. We are energy, so of course we can perceive energy. It's just all these meanings and stories we put on it that make it difficult. Um, yeah, so in terms of your own, yeah, again, your own nervous system, your own ability to perceive the world, it's worth kind of asking questions of yourself of, well, what scares me about being able to hear, if that's physical or energetic. So what I would say is whatever's happening physically, there's a resonance with kind of either an emotional and or energetic component too. So I know for myself, my intuitive hearing has been the last thing to develop for me. And my ears are very sensitive. So I'm that person when there's sirens out on the street and I'm out on, it's loud and overwhelming. It's hard. It's difficult. I hate it. It's painful. It's really painful, those loud noises. Saying that, I'll also go to a loud concert and love it. It's the same level of volume, but it's a very different sound. So I can be open to receiving that. Um, but I've had really sensitive ears throughout my life, prone to ear infections, things like that. Hearing was always hard, but nothing physically is wrong with my ears. Anytime I've had them checked, nothing's wrong with my ears, nothing is wrong with my hearing. So I know that I kind of created some blocks to try to dull down some of the sound because it felt painful and it felt difficult for me to receive. I think part of this as well is I've worked in the mental health field, and you hear all the time things like, oh, if people hear voices, they're crazy. So this idea of being able to hear something energetic makes you crazy. And, we've heard and seen over generations of people getting locked up and treated horrendously, because of their mental health issues, which potentially were psychic issues as well. That's a whole nother story we could talk about maybe another day. Um, but yeah, so again, it depends on how you view these abilities physically, energetically, emotionally. So a lot of the stuff I've had to work through for myself is, recognizing, because I've always been really visual. I could see loads energetically as a child. I'm hugely empathic. I could feel everything that was going on in the room. And my knowing is also very, very strong. So I just know things very quickly, intuitively. So for me, hearing was kind of the slowest one to develop, but it's because I did that. It's because I put up all these blocks and barriers. It's because I tried to shut things down kind of energetically. because I thought it would be overwhelming. It's like if I can see and I can feel and I can know, and then I start to hear, that's going to be way too much for me to handle. That was kind of my attitude about that. And when I started to question that and said, well, actually, what would it be like to be able to, I don't know, hear the organs within the body? Because the organs sing. Like the organs are amazing. You can hear stuff within the body. You know, what would it be like to be able to, hear a tree? Um, or what I've also realized is that I get a lot, um, I hear music whenever I'm doing sessions with people, or I get messages through music. So sometimes a song just kind of plays through me, either a line of it or there's something in it that I go, ah, yeah, that's the message. Um, so yeah, so that's stuff I was kind of shutting down for a long time. And now that I've kind of worked through that and opened that up, it's a very cool way to receive information. It's a very cool way to perceive things. Um, yeah, so again, it's worth kind of playing with these ideas. Let's see. Imagine a day when learning the language of energies on the curriculum. Do it. Make it happen, Lucia. I'm ready for it too. Yeah, yeah, that'd be amazing. Um, yeah. So again, it's worth kind of spending some time with each of your senses and kind of asking, what are my fears around seeing? What are my fears around hearing? What are the issues with being able to feel? Um, feel the world around me, feel what's happening with other people. Um, and allow yourself to just kind of explore that, because again, it's worth working through that, because the more information you can receive, the more truth you get, the easier it is to understand the world around you and within you, because you'll get truth from everywhere all the time. But it's only if you allow yourself to receive it. um Yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the feeling, the empathy side of it. Next month, I'm going to do a couple calls specifically on empathy. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time, but I know this is a big thing for highly sensitive people. So I do want to at least touch on it today. Because this is what I find is that the people who come to me, particularly, and people who are healers and practitioners and coaches, tend to be very empathic, um, and usually don't like it very much. Um, but the reality is that, again, if I'm speaking to a client, and I, again, like the shoulder example, if I can feel that there's pain in their shoulder, that, really quickly, that's information I get really fast. It's very accurate. um yeah, it's great to be able to sense what's going on, or if I can feel that there's really stressed or sad, or people in my life, if I can get a sense that someone's having a really hard day, I can approach that in a different way. I can approach a conversation in a much different way than if I didn't have that information. um but what happens with that empathic sense, that ability to feel, is that people often get confused, or they think they get confused. They think that they don't understand, what am I feeling versus what is the land holding versus what is that person feeling, kind of what's me and what's them. Um, and it really is, when that happens, when that confusion happens, when that overwhelm happens from that, because either you're confused about whose it is or what it is, or you're just feeling so much you can't decipher what is what, you can understand why people start to shut down and why people want to separate from themselves. So what happens is when you start to separate from that sense of feeling, or try to separate from the negative feelings, you separate from your own ability to feel. And you don't just dampen down the negative things like the anger, the discomfort, the frustration, the sadness. You also dampen down the joy and the fun and the happiness. There's loads of people walking around in a really depressed state, and it is because they have tried to disconnect from themselves. They've worked so hard to push away their feelings because they didn't know how to deal with it. They didn't know how to cope with it. They weren't taught how to, like most of us weren't taught how to process or understand or name our feelings. A lot of us have had to learn that as adults. This is the other thing I want on the curriculum, Lucia, is emotional intelligence. For sure. God, that'd be amazing if we just all learned that as kids. Um, But yeah, so being able to understand those emotions and feelings, being able to understand what you're feeling, um, means that you can start to identify, oh, okay, I'm feeling like this right now. This other person's feeling like this. Oh, that trauma that I'm picking up on, that's the land is holding that, and you can really get a sense of where that information is coming from, as opposed to it all just being a mess within you. um, so yeah, yes, for those of you who feel you are empathic and highly sensitive and who feel a lot, it's not about, because what a lot of people will teach, and this is one of the teachings in the spiritual community we really need to change, is this notion of protection. So I know I got taught when I first started doing healing courses and energy work about creating bubbles to protect myself. And I did that for a while because it made me feel a lot better. It was a relief for a while. But actually, again, if you think about, if you're building protection and you're building barriers, you're keeping out all the information. So the key is you go in and heal your stuff. And then it feels less overwhelming. It's less confusing because you understand yourself better. You understand how to work with that energy better, and it feels less invasive and less like it's influencing you or having an impact on you in ways that are detrimental or difficult or painful. So it's really a healing issue. That's not a psychic issue. um, so yeah, so this really is about healing your stuff so that you can be in a crowd of people, you can be out in society, you can talk to others and not feel like it's too much for you or it's too confusing for you. Yes. So let me know if there's any questions about any of that. um, I'm going to take us through a little bit of an exercise just to get started with kind of playing with some of this and a little bit of practice. Um, Stuart, that's what happens when I played live. No recollection of the audience. Yeah, because you don't let them see you and you don't see them either, right? Might be something just to play with the next time. Yeah. I've heard that sirens are a distant frequency that affects the body, and that humming, singing, wedding march will cancel it out because it's pure frequencies. Oh, that's interesting. I'll try that next time. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Oh, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us through a little bit of an exercise, and we're just going to play a little bit with our senses. And again, this is to just get you into that possibility of what if things could expand? What if it could be easier? What if I didn't feel like I needed to try to shut things down to keep myself safe? What if I could expand more and just receive the information? Um, and then, so I'll take us through that, and then we'll finish up with some final questions, if there's anything that people are wanting to ask. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect with each of the senses and kind of the organ or part of the body connected with that too. And with each of these, I just want you to notice what's happening there. So again, you may feel like, I don't know, hearing may be really easy for you. Your hearing might be great. You might feel really connected with your hearing. That's the easy one. But you may feel that the feeling or the sense of knowing feels a little bit harder or more difficult, or you're just not sure about it. So this isn't about judging yourself. It's just about creating some awareness of what's there. And knowing that a lot of times when you create the awareness, that's when things can change. So sometimes just having the awareness can start to shift some of the things that are going on within you. Um, so let's start with, actually, to start with, just close your eyes and bring your focus into your body. And just take a moment to just kind of scan through your own body. Start at the top of your head, around in your brain, down through your spinal cord. Just allow yourself to just move through your body to all the nerves. You're connecting with all your organs, your muscles, through your skin. Again, that's what allows us to feel our clothes touching our skin, the temperature of the room. It allows us to feel if there's anything going on with our bodies, if our stomachs are full, or if our heart's beating a little fast because we're stressed. But just get a sense of how easy it is for you to connect with your body and with what is going on internally, just through the feeling of it. And allow yourself to move all the way down to your hands and down to your feet. Just notice if it's as easy for you to feel your feet as it is for you to feel kind of the middle of your body. Some people feel a bit more disconnected from their hands and feet, their limbs. Again, it's just a chance to notice. See if you can get a sense of really being in your body, or whether you feel like you're outside of your body looking at yourself. And if you feel like you're outside of your body, just really gently allow yourself to come back in. Really allow all of yourself to be present and here, so that you can really get a feel for what's going on within your own body. Some people feel like their heads are a bit disconnected, or they feel like certain organs aren't right quite there, certain parts of their body, certain chakras aren't as present. Again, just feel what feels really connected and maybe what doesn't. As you're doing this, just really gently breathe in and out of your nose, if you're able to, if you're not too congested or stuffy. So breathing in and out of your nose is a quick and easy way to calm your nervous system. You can do it any moment of any day. As you are connecting with your nervous system, feel it more at ease, more relaxed. And if there are any areas that feel disconnected, see if you can just allow them to connect a little bit more. Okay. Now I want you to pay attention to your energy field just outside of your body. So again, some people's aura or energy field is much closer to their skin. It feels like you've got it pulled in really tight or really close. Again, just keep breathing through your nose. And just see if you can allow it to expand a little bit, even if it's just a couple of inches. Keep allowing it to expand, even if it's just a little bit at a time. And allow yourself to feel some of that spaciousness, that lightness that brings, or that allows. You might feel your body straightening up a little bit. You feel your muscles relaxing too. You may feel you can breathe a little more deeply. Again, this can be nice and slow. It can be really gentle. Just breathing in and out through your nose with the intention for your nervous system to just calm and be at peace. Take another breath or two and then open your eyes. And you can either look at the screen or you can look at a point in your room. I'd say look at something, not just a blank wall. I would say look at an area where there are some things there to look at. And maybe choose one thing in the room. And I want you to look at it, really look at it, and just allow as much detail to come through as possible. So some of these might be subtle changes in color or lighting. See light reflecting off of things, or might be able to really see the shape and edge of something you haven't noticed before. Just feel the muscles around your eyes softening. You're not straining to see, you're relaxing into seeing more. Really allow yourself to see any nuances or subtle colors coming through. So I'm looking at a crystal that's purple, but now I'm seeing that there are 6, 7, 8 shades of purple that are all very similar, very close. But there's more color to it than I thought. Again, you're not straining, you're relaxing into it. You're allowing your eyes to see as much information as possible. You may start to be able to see some of the energy. And just take a moment to look around the room you're in. Just allowing more color to come through, more detail. Even if you think your vision isn't good, it's better than you think it is. So let yourself see. Let yourself see things you've stopped seeing because it's become just a normal part of the background. Really notice it. For this last exercise, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes again, and we're going to tune into your sense of hearing. So our ear centers, our ear chakras are kind of slightly above and behind where our ears are. And actually that's where we process hearing in our brains. So you may be tuning into your physical ears, but you may be able to feel that energy kind of slightly above and behind your ear as well. So you're able to hear my voice right now. That might be the obvious sound in the room or at the moment. But I'm going to give you some moments of silence so that you can listen to the room and maybe hear some, again, it may be the background noise that you've learned to tune out. You might be able to hear water running or electricity, or things happening in other rooms. But just imagine what it would be like to be able to hear more than what you've just been paying attention to. So take a few moments to do that. Just feel your ears relaxing. You're not straining, you're just allowing that sound to come through. And again, this might be physical, it might also be energetic. If you feel yourself kind of closing down or doubting, just breathe into that and just relax and set the intention for it to be more open, for it to be easier. This is just a practice. Treat it like a game. Taking a few more nice deep breaths in and out through your nose. You can just allow your nervous system to continue to calm. You can stay in this state for a little longer if you want to. There's no rush. Just whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. So really briefly, I'm going to tell you about an event or two I've got coming up, just to give you a little information if you're interested in doing a bit more. And then we'll stop the call and answer questions. So next week on the Monday the 8th, couldn't remember what month it was. Happy New Year. On Monday, we're going to do a clearing call, which is 90 minutes of healing. So we usually include a meditation with that, probably do a few more exercises and things, but it's really a call to go on and do some healing around your blocks, your fears, the old projections and conditioning around your senses, physical, emotional, energetic. So please join us for that if you feel called. It's going to be fun. And in a little over a week, if you're in and around or near Edinburgh, I'm going to be holding an in-person congregation event. So these are going to be monthly events starting in Edinburgh. I feel like they're going to maybe travel around a little bit too. And our focus is going to be on ancestry and becoming the elder and living as the elder in the community. And for anyone who's wanting to delve more into intuition, nervous system, all the things, communication, expression, all the stuff we've been talking about tonight, it's not too late to join our winter membership program, which is called the Remembering Collective. So we'll be doing all stuff, everything around intuition, psychic senses for the next couple months. So I'll send that out in the email, and information's on my website if you feel like you would like to join. Yes, so that's going to be it from me in terms of information. But yes, thank you all so much for joining and for asking questions and sharing and being a part of it. I'm very, very grateful.